Elena was folding her husband's laundry when she found the phone. Not his phone. A second phone, hidden deep in the pocket of his work jacket. A phone she'd never seen before. It was ringing. The caller ID made her heart stop. Sophie, my baby girl, medium light skin tone, 2 hearts. Elena's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. David had no children. They'd been trying for 8 years. 8 years of negative tests, failed treatments, and her body failing them over and over again. So who is Sophie? The phone kept ringing. Elena's finger hovered over the answer button. Then she heard David's car in the driveway. She answered the call. Daddy? A little girl's voice, sweet and innocent. Daddy, are you there? Elena's world shattered. Before we dive in, where in the world are you watching from right now? Type your country or city in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy emotional stories like this, please hit subscribe. All right, back to the story. Daddy? The little voice called again. I can hear you breathing. Are you okay? Elena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. This child was calling her husband Daddy. Sophie, honey, is that you? Elena heard herself whisper. Silence. Then, who are you? Where's my daddy? The front door slammed. David's footsteps in the hallway. Elena hung up and shoved the phone back into his jacket pocket, her heart hammering so loud she was sure he could hear it from downstairs. Elena? I'm home. David's voice, warm and familiar. The same voice that had whispered maybe next month after every negative pregnancy test. Elena stared at herself in the bedroom mirror. Same face, same life. But everything had changed in 30 seconds. Her husband had a daughter. Hey, beautiful. David appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. The same routine for 12 years. Kiss on the forehead. How was your day? Elena looked at this man she'd shared a bed with, shared dreams with, shared heartbreak with. This stranger who apparently had a child calling him daddy. Fine, she managed, her voice cracking. David frowned. You okay? You look pale. If you've ever discovered a secret that destroyed everything you believed about your life, you know that moment. When reality shifts and nothing will ever be the same. Just tired, Elena whispered. That night, Elena lay awake listening to David sleep. This man who'd held her through 3 miscarriages. Who'd sat in fertility doctors' offices holding her hand. Who'd cried with her when the 4th round of IVF failed. He had a daughter somewhere. A little girl who called him daddy. At 3 a.m., David's secret phone buzzed with a text message. Elena carefully slid it from his jacket pocket. The message was from someone named Rebecca Rethart. Sophie keeps asking why Daddy can't live with us all the time. What should I tell her? She cried herself to sleep again tonight. Elena's breath caught. She scrolled up through months of messages. Sophie lost her first tooth today. She was so proud to show you the gap. Doctor says Sophie needs glasses. She looks just like you in them. Sophie made you a Father's Day card. She wants to give it to you in person. I know this is hard, but Sophie needs more time with her father. She's starting to ask why other kids' daddies live with them. Elena's hands shook as she kept reading. Photos. Videos. A whole life David had been living without her. Sophie was 7 years old. 7. Which meant David had been living this lie for 8 years. Their entire marriage. Elena crept to the bathroom and called the number. David? A woman's voice, groggy with sleep. This isn't David, Elena whispered. Silence. Who is this? I'm David's wife. The silence stretched so long Elena thought the call had dropped. Rebecca? Are you there? His wife. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. David told me he was divorced. Elena felt like she was falling into a black hole. Divorced? He said you left him 3 years ago. That you couldn't handle not having children, so you walked away. Elena gripped the bathroom counter to keep from collapsing. I never left him. We've been married for 12 years. We've been trying to have children this whole time. That's impossible. Rebecca's voice was shaking now. Sophie is 7. David's been in our lives since before she was born. He was there when she took her first steps. He's been her father. While he was married to me, Elena whispered. Both women sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of David's deception. Oh my God, Rebecca finally breathed. What kind of monster have we been involved with? Elena thought of every fertility appointment, every hopeful month, every devastating disappointment. David had been there for all of it, comforting her, promising they'd have a family someday, while he already had a daughter. Rebecca, Elena's voice was steadier now. We need to meet. I can't. This is insane. My daughter. Sophie thinks David is going to marry me someday. She thinks we're going to be a real family. Where do you live? Cedar Falls. But Elena, I can't. I'll be there tomorrow. Elena hung up and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. She looked like a ghost. Pale, hollow-eyed, broken. But she wasn't broken. She was angry. The next morning, David kissed her goodbye like always. I love you, he said, the same words he'd spoken every morning for 12 years. I love you too, Elena replied and meant it. That was the most heartbreaking part. Even knowing what she knew, she still loved him, which made his betrayal even more devastating. The drive to Cedar Falls took 2 hours. 2 hours to think about 8 years of lies. 8 years of David coming home from business trips that were actually visits to his secret family. How many times had he tucked Sophie into bed and then come home to console Elena about their childlessness? How many times had he celebrated Sophie's milestones while telling Elena that someday they'd have those moments too? Rebecca's house was small but beautiful, yellow with white trim and a porch swing. The kind of house Elena had always dreamed of filling with children. There was a little bike in the front yard, pink with streamers on the handlebars. Elena sat in her car for 10 minutes, gathering courage. Finally, she knocked. The woman who answered was nothing like Elena had imagined. She was beautiful, yes, but in a tired, worn-down way. Like someone who'd been carrying a heavy secret for too long. Elena? Rebecca? They stared at each other. Two women who'd been sharing the same man without knowing it. She's at school, Rebecca said quietly. Sophie, she doesn't know you exist. Elena followed Rebecca into a living room filled with signs of a child. Toys in a basket. Drawings on the refrigerator. A photo on the mantle of David pushing a little girl on a swing. Elena picked up the photo. Sophie looked exactly like David. Same eyes, same smile, same stubborn chin. She adores him, Rebecca said, watching Elena study the picture. He's her whole world. Elena set the photo down with shaking hands. How did this happen? Rebecca sat heavily on the couch. We dated in high school. Lost touch when he went to college. Then 8 years ago, we ran into each other at a coffee shop. He said he was married but unhappy. Said you two were having problems. We weren't having problems, Elena said quietly. We were having fertility issues. He told me you blamed him. That you'd grown cold and distant. Elena felt nauseous. I never blamed him. We were going through it together. He said you were talking about divorce. That the stress of trying to have children had destroyed your marriage. Elena sank into a chair. None of that was true. I got pregnant after we'd been seeing each other for 2 months, Rebecca continued. When I told him, he cried. Said it was a miracle. That he'd always wanted to be a father. The words hit Elena like physical blows. David had cried when Rebecca told him she was pregnant. Elena had never seen him cry tears of joy about a pregnancy because she'd never been able to give him that moment. He promised he'd leave you after Sophie was born, Rebecca whispered. Said he just needed time to figure out how to do it without destroying you. 8 years, Elena said. He's been promising to leave me for 8 years? Rebecca nodded, tears streaming down her face. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. Soon, he'd say. I'll tell Elena soon. What about Sophie? What does she think? She thinks Daddy has to travel for work. That's why he can't live with us full-time. But lately, she's been asking harder questions. Why can't Daddy come to school events? Why doesn't he have pictures of her at his house? Why does she have to keep their relationship secret? Elena felt her heart breaking for this little girl she'd never met. A child who'd been living in the shadows of her father's double life. Rebecca, there's something else I need to tell you. Rebecca looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. Last night, I found more than just your messages on David's phone. Rebecca's face went white. What do you mean? There were other contacts. Other women. The room went silent except for the ticking of a clock shaped like a butterfly. How many others? Rebecca whispered. Elena pulled out her own phone and showed Rebecca the screenshots she'd taken. At least 3 more that I could find. Maybe more. Rebecca stared at the screen, her face cycling through disbelief, horror, and rage. Jessica in Portland. Maria in Phoenix. And someone called Angel with a Miami area code. Oh my God. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. Sophie has siblings? I think so. Rebecca stood up abruptly and walked to the window. 8 years. 8 years I've been waiting for him to choose us. 8 years I've been raising his daughter alone, telling her that Daddy loves us, but just can't be with us right now. Elena joined her at the window. I've been married to him for 12 years, thinking we were trying to build a family together. Thinking our biggest problem was infertility. What are we going to do? Rebecca asked. Elena looked out at the pink bike in the yard. At the life David had built with Rebecca and Sophie while living with her every night. We're going to tell Sophie the truth, Elena said. And then we're going to confront David together. Rebecca turned to her, eyes wide. We can't tell Sophie. She's 7 years old. This will destroy her. Rebecca, what do you think is going to happen when she finds out on her own? When she's older and realizes her father has been lying to her entire life? I can't. Rebecca shook her head. I can't break her heart like that. Then what? We keep living this lie? We keep letting David divide his time between all of us while we pretend everything is normal. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. There's something else, she finally said. Something I haven't told you. Elena's stomach dropped. What? David proposed to me last month. Elena felt the room spin. What? He said he was finally ready to leave you. That he wanted to marry me and give Sophie the family she deserves. Elena gripped the windowsill. What did you tell him? I said yes. The words hung in the air between them. He's planning to divorce you, Elena. He's already talked to a lawyer. Elena stared out at the street, processing this final betrayal. David wasn't just living a double life. He was planning to abandon one life for another. After 12 years of marriage, after 8 years of letting her believe their childlessness was their shared burden, he was going to throw it all away for the family he'd had all along. But if David thought he could just walk away from the wreckage he'd created, he was wrong. Because Elena had a plan. And it was going to change everything. Just then, Elena's phone rang. It was David. Where are you? He asked, and there was something different in his voice. Something cold. Elena looked at Rebecca, whose face had gone pale. I'm running errands, Elena managed. Really? Because I just got a very interesting phone call. Someone saw my wife's car parked outside Rebecca's house. Elena's blood turned to ice. David knew. He knew she'd found out. And judging by the tone in his voice, he was already planning his next move.